Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description.
Give this video a like, even if you don't like exactly what the conclusion of this video is. 11 receivers went in the top 50 of the 2020 NFL Draft. Henry Ruggs was drafted first. This is information you know. That means he was drafted ahead of Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk and Chase Claypool and Laviska Shenault and Jerry Jeudy and Michael Pittman and KJ Hamler and Jalen Reagor.
If I remember correctly, several NFL general managers went on record with their names behind it and called it a historically great wide receiver class, right? On record, not like anonymous, and there were a ton of anonymous scouts, but there were a lot of guys on record. Yeah, it's one of the best wide receiver classes I've ever seen. Been in the business 30 years, right? And he was the first guy of the group. And then it's lived up to the hype. Like, no one even argues. Like, God, that was overhyped. It's like, God, all these guys are sweet.
They all look really good. But I read them in that order for a reason, because you know Justin Jefferson didn't go one. That's the order of from most to fewest catches. And after Jalen Reagor comes Henry Ruggs. So of the 11 guys that went drafted in the top 50, and it feels like that's kind of the cut line right now, right? Like Van Jefferson, a few other guys came after the top 50. But the top 50 kind of feels like the group. You could even argue maybe it's really the top 13 or the top, like 9. But nonetheless, he went first. He has the fewest catches of that group. And I'm not, after watching every second of the Raiders this year, John, I'm not convinced that it's really his fault. I don't know. But I know that all these other guys, he has made a couple of plays. You and I early watched him and thought, we like this guy. I don't care about the box score. But now I'm watching him, and the box score will say like 2 catches, and watching says the same. I forget that he's on the field.
I noticed it last night. I made a decision. I had an opportunity to either put Henry Ruggs or Nelson Aguilar on my daily fantasy Saturday only game. And my game was I had picked good players. I mean, I was in the mix to turn $10 into $100. But wow. I went, everyone's going to take Nelson Aguilar. It was a zig move. I'm like, I'm going to go with Henry Ruggs. Maybe this is a game he has 3 for 80 and a touchdown, right? Just has one of those. So I specifically watched offensive series every time, and he's on the field a lot. Like, he is the packages guy are Jacobs, Ingold, Waller, Ruggs, Aguilar. Like, that is their consistent kind of what they go with a lot. Those guys on the field. And Derek doesn't look at them. And they're running plays. I mean, they ran plays in key moments for Jason Witten. They do not run plays for Ruggs. And when they do, they just take a deep shot maybe once a game. And the other thing is, for whatever reason, Derek is not comfortable with him. Like, to me, he's very comfortable with Nelson Aguilar, and he kind of force feeds him the ball, and it works. They do not throw the ball at Henry Ruggs. And when you look at all these other guys, they force feed Jefferson the ball. They obviously force feed Ayuk the ball. Higgins is just their best player. Mims, immediately one of their best players. CeeDee Lamb, stands out on a team with Gallup and Amari, as a stud.
Claypool.
These guys are just, Claypool, he just physically stands out, and then he makes plays. You watch, they do not even target him, guy. They do not. It doesn't feel like he's a huge part of the offense, which is pretty nuts for a guy that was drafted that high.
I think what you just said to me is the simplest way to put it, right? Is you watch these other guys, and it's clear that their team spent – one of the things they did that week was how do we get this guy the ball? I mean, it's obvious when you watch the 49ers, right? All the ways we're going to get Brandon Ayuk the ball. How are we going to do it? When you watch the Raiders, it doesn't – it feels like that maybe he's not ready for it, or they're not, but it doesn't feel like they make a lot of effort in that regard.
When I watch them play, if they could do it over, and I like Henry Ruggs, but when I think John Gruden, I do not think Henry Ruggs. To me, if they could do it over, how would they not take CeeDee Lamb? When I watch CeeDee Lamb play, I go, God, Gruden and Derek would like this guy a lot more. I just don't think Henry Ruggs makes sense with them. He does not work. I think it's just a bad fit. I'm not saying it won't work, but I'd say this year watching, and same with Jefferson, but definitely CD, because I think he was in that mix. And I remember people on the Raiders told me they like CD a lot. I just think he would CD would just have more catches on their team, would he not? Like his style with Derek.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. But although the thing with Ruggs is like on paper it makes sense, right? You're like, we got Waller. We're going to stretch the field with this guy. We're going to run the rock with Jacobs. Now you look back, you go, even with like Bryan Edwards, like he's kind of that tough 8-yard, 10-yard guy. They clearly, when he's healthy, they try to get him the ball. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Edwards.
Yeah. Aguilar.
They gave Ruggs last night or yesterday, or I guess last night,
Saturday,
on an end around. But to me, like let's use Kyle Shanahan for example. I think a lot of coaches use like the end around, like we got it in. We practiced that motion. Kyle fucking force feeds it, right? Like if he thinks he has a good player that runs that play well, like he will give it to Debo 3 or 4 times during the game. He does not go away from it because he goes, this play has worked. We scouted it out. It's going to work. We like this player in this spot. Well, Ruggs, like, get him the ball. His greatest attribute is he's faster than every single player on the field. So the only way to truly know that speed is like the other thing, like CeeDee Lamb, like he can block and do it. Like Ruggs is not like out there blocking. You know, that's not going to be his deal. Get him the ball. So if that means handing the ball off, if that means running some quick screens, it just feels like he just kind of, they force feed the ball to Jason Witten guy more consistently than do Henry Ruggs.
You did text me during the game. You're like, Gruden loves trying to get the ball to Witten.
Well, it's not even debatable. I mean, they throw it to him in like big 4th down spots. It's crazy.
Here's a take for you, John.
It's kind of laughable, actually.
If the Raiders knew, that's the other thing is Ruggs for being like a speed guy who's not that big is pretty. We've seen him like in jump ball situations, like he can go hit the ball. If the Raiders knew Nelson Aguilar would be this good, would they even have taken a receiver at 12?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they go defense.
I mean, they could have used, if they knew Nelson Aguilar was going to be this good, they could have taken. I mean, don't forget they used 19 on a defensive player.
They I didn't think about who was on the board. I think if they could do it again,
they would just take CD.
Yeah, I just think he makes more sense to just John Gruden's offense. Like John Gruden is not running. Like when I think Andy Reid, I go, God, I bet Henry Ruggs would be sweet with him. When I think John Gruden, I just think more like watching Higgins and Derek. Like Derek is not super comfortable with super speed guy. Like he has had when Amari was killing it, if you go back and look, they were running a lot of like slants and deep outs and like his time with Devontae Adams, now with Waller, he takes a couple deep shots, but he feels more comfortable with a bigger guy. I think why he likes Nelson Aguilar is, for as much fun as people have made fun of Nelson over the years for dropping the balls, is he's been very reliable. And I had someone that knows that said Derek told him earlier this year he was just so much more comfortable in his offense because he felt like the guys on the skill guys he could depend on. Now, he was specifically talking about, I think, Waller and obviously Josh Jacobs, but I think Aguilar thrust himself immediately into like a Amari Devontae Adams role for them. And then you see him like make that, like Aguilar is really talented. He was a 1st-round pick. He is not some random bust guy. Might have been a little overpicked, but he's a good player and he's resurrected his career. He's having a Crabtree-like moment, right? He got a 1-year, like $2 million deal. And it feels like I'm watching the game going, how do they not bring him back? Right? How do they not? How do they risk letting him go with how comfortable he is in their offense and with their quarterback? But with Ruggs, like, I think you got to ask yourself this offseason. And I think the shitty part is, it's like, it feels like you're like trying to force feed him the ball. How does he not just have like, with Kyle, for example, again, because I watched the most of the Raiders and the Niners very critically, there's an ebb and a flow to Kyle and his guys. It's not like they're force feeding. They just run plays for their guys. Like, how do you not know the plays for Ruggs? Like, you don't have plays for him. Mm-mm. Like, you don't, you like take a deep shot, but you just do it because, he's fast. It doesn't feel like that's what he wants to do.
It feels like, it just feels like they look at it like, we don't have time for this right now. Like, we got to figure out what to do with them. And we're too busy trying to make the playoffs. We don't have time to figure this out right now. We're not even going to mess with them. That's what it feels like.
Is it fair to like, not even what it feels like, that's what it is right now?
Well, I hope. I guess if that's the case. Yeah. But when I watch him, can he not learn I don't watch him and think he doesn't belong on an NFL field. That's the part that's weird. I think, like, just get that guy the ball and he would make some plays.
I think I'd be hard pressed to go. He can't handle the playbook when he just came from Alabama, where he's a 3-year starter.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it'd
By
be
the
one
way-
thing. It's like he can't figure it out in the big leagues. Like, yeah, basically came from the NFL junior.
By the way, on Nelson Aguilar, because you're right. When you watch him, you think like, that's a first round pick. He was drafted 20th. He wasn't. The receiver draft was pretty bad that year. Amari was the first receiver. Then it was Kevin White, Devontae Parker. So then Aguilar goes. Then it's Brashad Perryman, Philip Dorsett, Devin Smith. Remember Dorial Green Beckham?
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett. Okay, that would have been a guy to take, but that's a third-round pick. Ty Montgomery basically became a running back. Stephon Diggs goes 55. Goes in the 5th round. Okay, Waller, as it turns out, went in the 6th round. But the point
Waller
is, like,
and Diggs
it
went
wasn't.
in the 5th and 6th.
Yeah. The point is, it was a pretty bad draft from that position. It